Hello there, welcome to the Football Bloc. My name is Brandon, and today I'm going to give you my reactions to the 2025 Gold Cup final between the United States and Mexico, which saw Mexico come out on top. So if that sounds interesting, let's hop right into it.
One step beyond.
So the Gold Cup final has come to a close. We have a champion of North America for 2025. It is a repeat champion here, the defending champions of both the 2023 Gold Cup and also the most recent Nations League earlier this year in March, and that is the Mexican national team. They defeated the United States 2-1 after 90 minutes, and I gotta say, overall I think it was a pretty interesting game if you want to take it from a neutral point of view. You know, it was pretty exciting. There was some controversial action, some chances at goals, things like that. There was a last minute goal as well, and to be honest, the Gold Cup, a lot of times it's very predictable about who's going to win. But the finals are usually pretty good to watch, at least from a neutral point of view. I mean, 2023 was pretty cool. A very end-to-end game, last-minute goal from Mexico against Panama there. 2021, I thought, was a phenomenal game. Went all the way to extra time, last-minute header from the United States against Mexico there. Miles Robinson with the goal. Even, 2019, another very tight, razor-thin edge game. The last final that I can remember that wasn't that great of a game was literally 10 years ago in 2015 that got a game between Mexico and Jamaica. It was kind of a routine game there, but the fact that you have to go back literally 10 years shows that this tournament has its moments. I mean, it's criticized a lot. I've criticized it a lot. It's not perfect by any means, but there is a certain charm to it. There is a certain magic to it. Unfortunately, from an American point of view, we did not come out on top. The United States lost this game today. The way that the game started off was actually very much in the favor of the United States, where I thought they started off just very aggressively. They were getting into the right spaces. They won a free kick, and then a beautiful ball was sent into the box from Sebastian Berhalter, and it was met by the head of Chris Richards, and with a beautiful header, a wonderful strong header there, he was able to outleap his defenders, get good contact on the ball. The ball crashed off the underside of the crossbar, went in. It was fully in. It was close, but goal line technology confirmed that it was a goal. United States is 1-0 up within 4 minutes of the game there. But from that point on, I think that's where everything started to unravel from the United States. Mauricio Pochettino, who, I think if you just look at on paper, their CVs, he is by far the best manager to ever coach the United States. But things have not really been clicking. I think that he has not handled just his tenure as the United States manager very well, and I think he did not handle this game well at all, because after scoring such an early goal, the way he set up this team was to just sit back, soak up pressure, and hold on to that lead for the next 80 plus minutes. Now, if you're doing that against a top class opponent, that's fine. If it's, let's say hypothetically a World Cup quarterfinal or something like that, that's fine. But you can't do that against Mexico, not even that great of a Mexican squad. Not to mention, this American squad is just not set up to play a pragmatic style. Like, I'm totally okay with the United States playing that type of reactive style, especially when you're going to go up against teams that are much more talented than you. But not only is Mexico not more talented than the United States, but this team, the strategy we have, the formation we have, and then the players that were called up are not set up to play a pragmatic defensive style. And then we saw very clearly how all these things just don't mesh together, because Mexico had all the freedom to attack, and then from that moment on, it was all Mexico. They had so many chances, they came close on so many occasions, and there was barely any outlet going forward for the United States. Yes, there was a few counterattacks, a few long balls over the top, But that's it. And even those chances were essentially half chances. There was a penalty shout where the Mexican defender, he falls over and then touches the ball with his hand. It was an accident, but we've seen that many times given. We've seen calls that are less egregious than that been given as a penalty, even if it's not intentional. I think that's a clear penalty. But that you can't use that as an excuse. The way that the U.S. set up in this game is the reason that we lost, not because of that one penalty there. And like I said, Mexico just had chance after chance after chance. Not all of them were great chances. This Mexican team is not like a super attack-heavy team. But the fear is that if the United States does go up against a team that is more attack-oriented, we're going to just get torched there. Eventually, Mexico did break the deadlock. It was Raul Jimenez after a beautiful ball from Ruiz there. Very good interplay there, and he sent an absolute rocket into the, upper 90, the under roof of the net. Great shot from him there. He's been in great form. And then Ruiz, in particular, I think was man of the match. The way that he just played, but defensively and offensively, the way he was able to facilitate the ball moving down the field, he was all over the place. Man of the match performance from him. And with the score tied at 1-1, things did not improve for the United States. It just felt like a matter of when, not if, Mexico would grab the winner. Like I said, the U.S. did have a few half chances, but nothing that was really that troubling to Malagon in Mexico's goal there. There was the one shot from Ajiman, for example, that deflected off of Malagon's face. But again, it was more so kind of just like a lucky bounce in the box. It wasn't necessarily a great move, a great attacking move or something like that. And then it was Mexico, obviously, that did score the winner to put themselves 2-1 up. It was a set piece, and Edson Alvarez was the one that put the ball into the back of the net. There was a question of it being offside, and it is very, very close, but it looks like they eventually did make the right decision, calling it as a goal, unfortunately, from an American point of view. And, Mexico is super dangerous on set pieces there. We've seen so many goals scored from set pieces from this Javier Aguirre side, both in this tournament and then also beforehand in friendlies and also in the Nations League. And Mexico was able to hold on to the lead there. It got a little chippy at the end, but it wasn't enough for the United States, and Mexico holds on to this lead to come out on top to solidify themselves as the champions here. As for my prediction, I did correctly call that it was going to be 2-1, and I also correctly called that the United States would score first and that Raul Jimenez would equalize, but I didn't correctly call that the second goal would not go to the United States. Obviously, it went to Mexico there. And the reason that I thought that the United States would come out on top is because if you look at this Mexico team, yes, they are pretty solid defensively, but when you look at their wings, for example, their fullbacks, and also just the defense as a whole, whether it be the midfielders or the center backs, they're not that fast. They leave a lot of open space that can be exploited, as we saw, for example, in that game against Dominican Republic. But when you look at the United States teams, we have the ability to exploit that weakness there. When you look at a guy like Diego Luna and a guy like Malik Tillman, who have been absolutely on fire this tournament. But those two players never really had the opportunity to even exploit those spaces because we were set up to play such a defensive and pragmatic style. Diego Luna spent more time defending than he did, trying to create something in Mexico's defending half. And that is not the fault of Diego Luna. That's not the fault of Malik Tillman. They did their job. That is the fault of Mauricio Pochettino. And I think we can ask some serious questions whether or not he is the right guy for the job. Like I said before, just on paper, he's the most talented manager to ever coach this team. But it's just not working. We saw how poor we were in this game. And, I hear a lot of excuses. People say, well, it's a B squad. He doesn't have all the players he wants. And, whether or not he had a choice in who is being called up to this tournament, we saw him with the A squad in the Nations League, and we were even worse there. We lost to Panama and we lost to Canada. Not to mention, this isn't really like a B squad or a C squad. This is not like the squad we brought to, say, the last two Gold Cups. These are a lot of starters here. Yes, there's no Pulisic, there's no Weston McKennie, there's no Tim Weah, but it's not a whole bunch of U23 guys or something like that. It's not bench players and youth players like we saw in 2021, for example. And I think that this situation was with Pochettino, it just cast a dark cloud over the United States because this tournament was a huge missed opportunity. We have the World Cup coming to this country a year from now. This is the last competitive game that we're going to play because there's no qualification cycle. This is the last meaningful game that we have before that tournament, and we came up short. There's many reasons for that. Obviously, I do think that Christian Pulisic deserves some criticism. He's the captain of this team. He should have been here. But I don't think it should be all on him. That's also on Pochettino. How come Pulisic wasn't foaming at the mouth to play here? And then if he was saying no, how come Pochettino didn't try hard enough to bring him to this tournament when it is an absolute necessity, considering how poor we've been over the past year? And this team also just doesn't have an identity. Like I said, I have no problem with the United States playing a more pragmatic style. We've seen Pochettino set up teams like that in the past. But the formations that he's playing, the players that he's bringing in, it just doesn't match up. And then also Pochettino, a lot of questions have to be asked about his in-game management, not just with how he sets up his teams, but also the players that he brings on, when he chooses to do substitutions, who is he choosing to start? Nothing really makes sense, and it does not give me a lot of confidence as an American soccer fan heading into the World Cup. And not to mention also, I briefly touched on this before, this Mexico team is not amazing. I mean, they're pretty solid. I think Javier Aguirre is a great coach and a very experienced coach, and they have some positives to them when you look at, say, how great Raul Jimenez has been the rising talent of Mora in the midfield, or their two center backs, Johan Vasquez and Cesar Montes, who have been great this tournament. The spine of the team is fine, but this team is not super talented. If you look at a full-strength United States squad versus a full-strength Mexico squad, I think the United States squad is by far the better team just on paper. So the fact that this Mexico team was able to beat us, it really is a cause for concern. Alarm bells should be ringing. If there is a time to let go of Pochettino, it would be right now. The hope is that, obviously you don't need to let go of him and that he actually starts to find form with this team, considering how talented he is. But if there is a time to let him go, it is now, because if it starts to get closer and closer to the World Cup, the fear is that if you bring in someone new, they won't have enough time to just fully set up shop. So U.S. soccer has some serious questions to answer. It is a very uncertain time for U.S. soccer. But anyway, guys, let me know what you thought of this game. If you did predictions yourself, let me know how they went. What did you think of this game? At least from a neutral point of view, did you find it exciting? Was it a little dull? Or, did you love it? What did you think of the performance from both the United States and Mexico? Do you think I'm being too harsh on the United States? Do you think, because I've heard some people say, look, this is Mexico's A squad. This is not our full top strength United States team. The fact that it was only 2-1 in the final, that's actually not that bad. I've heard some people kind of just downplay the Gold Cup in general and say no one really cares about it. It's just, a warm-up for players to get into the A squad. I don't necessarily agree with that point of view either. But let me know all your thoughts in the comment section below. And what do you think of both the United States and Mexico heading into the World Cup? Obviously, the United States has a lot of work to do, but Mexico isn't perfect either. Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Share this video with a friend. Follow the Football Bloc on social media. But anyway, guys, my name is Brandon. This has been the Football Bloc, and I hope you have a nice rest of your night.
One step beyond.